Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reality Remakes. My name is Dennis, and I'm filling in for Dale while he's on vacation. In recent events, Britney Spears' conservatorship has ended after 13 years. Oops, I hope you don't do it again. With us in the studio tonight is Solomon.
Where's Dale? Hi.
Yeah, Dale's in Europe right now. We're going to get some updates on him and keep you posted. And Jim, still here?
How we doing?
All right, Jim. Good to hear you. Anthony?
How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. For this particular episode, we're going to talk about all electric, all the rage. I'm seeing a trend in advertising promoting the EV or electric vehicle as environmentally friendly. I watch football on the weekends, and there was at least 3 or 4 commercials about this car, all electric, don't need any gas, whatever. Okay. There are pros and cons to EVs, a few being energy efficiency versus they can't travel as far, and while they reduce emissions, fueling takes longer. Another is lower maintenance, but they are more expensive. Okay, there are a couple of different kinds of EVs. Okay, let's cover the 3 most popular ones. There's a hybrid electrical vehicle, which is an HEV, a plug-in hybrid electrical vehicle, which is a PHEV, and a battery electric vehicle. They're called BEVs or AEVs, or simply enough just EV, meaning battery EV, all electric vehicle, or just a plain old simple electric vehicle. Okay. Now, the HEVs, they have both a motor and an engine. Primary fuel is gas. They need oil changes and maintenance. A plug-in hybrid vehicle has a larger battery. It still can use a charging station. It still has oil changes and maintenance. Okay, and then we go into the AEVs, the BEVs, whatever you want to call them. Let's just call them EVs for that little sake of difference. They don't use any oil. You don't have to do an oil change. They only have an electric motor. They must plan out charging periods, because if you want to take a trip, you have to plan where you're going to recharge your vehicle, and there's stretch on the battery in the cold climates. Okay, so if you're up north in northern Ohio during the wintertime, your battery pack and your AEV or your EV, it's going to take the hit. They get about 2,000 miles before the battery needs placed, but of course I just mentioned the cold climate, so your mileage may vary, and it depends on the load, because this is something else I'll get into. How do you keep yourself warm in the cold climates with an electric vehicle? Now, we're looking basically at the cost of gas and oil changes and maintenance for a normal combustion engine vehicle versus the cost of battery and stress. Okay, stress meaning you have to plan out your route. You can plug in your vehicle at night. Hopefully it's charged if there's not a power outage, and then you can go around your day, but you got to watch that charge gauge constantly. And you just can't pull into a normal gas station because we don't have the infrastructure for electric vehicles yet. And they have very limited range. You're going to get maybe 122 miles, whereas you can drive 122 miles, fill up your tank, drive another 300, fill up your tank, drive another 300. You get where I'm going with that. So the question is, who actually wants an EV? And I'll turn it over to the crew.
I think from a performance standpoint that they are, like, their performance based is crazy. They have incredible 0 to 60 times and enhanced stopping distance over conventional combustion engines, and there's only so far you can take technology in combustion engine, and where the development of EV technology is just getting started.
I'll second that real quick because since you're all electric, you can throw in a computer, a microprocessor, all these sensors, and the overall control over a combustion engine. There's only so many things you can regulate with sensors. But if you're all electric, I mean, your computer controls everything related to your engine and your motor and everything. So what you're seeing is they can get better efficiency out of them.
The only one I want is the newer Tesla one, just because of how fast it is.
Which manufacturer makes the Epsilon?
Tesla.
Tesla. I looked at the Tesla Model Y, and
The
that's
Model. That's the fast one.
the Model Y is the speed car.
I personally was looking at the Ford Maverick.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. It's a hybrid, which I get. Okay, I would like the hybrid. It runs off gasoline until, well, how exactly does the hybrid work? It runs off of gasoline and then the electric motor kicks in and then what? It steps back down to gasoline? Still, you're increasing your fuel mileage.
It's usually they're electric on the slow speed and then gas when you're at a higher speed.
Okay. I don't know. I like the Ford Maverick because it's obviously a Ford product and it's $22,000. That's one of the other things I was bringing up with the price. You're looking at maintenance costs for batteries. Some quotes are 200,000 miles. I don't see that happening. If you're in a colder climate, it's going to stress your battery pack down. I mean, imagine if you leave your car out all night, your combustion engine car, okay, and you don't have a new battery, which are only good for 4 or 5 years, your car's not going to start. Amplify that by 12 battery packs to run your electric vehicle in a cold climate. If you're not charging it, what happens then,
Well, don't they? Some of these cars already have they're not off ever. They're always on doing something, either keeping a battery warm, or a lot of them have a security system that's going on. Or I don't
Well,
think that.
well, yeah, they're constantly draining juice from their own battery pack.
Right.
Which brings up the question, if you're in a cold climate, conventional combustion engines use the coolant to circulate past the heater core to keep yourself warm. You have high, low, medium controls, whatever you need. How does an electric vehicle keep you warm in the wintertime?
They have some sort of the same kind of heater core radiators type of thing to heat and cool the batteries in the cold temperature. I've done plenty of research on this myself, and they've somehow managed to get it so, and you leave it out, you have some sort of an electric heater to heat up using some of the battery's power to heat up the coolant and flow it through to get it warmed up, and that's the same way it'll heat you up.
Okay, so it still has coolant in it, or does it just have a heating element running at about 1400 kilowatts with a fan blowing by it? Like your typical heater cores.
It does have coolant.
Controls. It senses the temperature in the car. You set the temperature, the electrical controls kick on the coils, just like an electric furnace in your house. It uses the same format. It can read body temperature that's sitting on a seat. So if you're very cold, it sits down and will heat the seat. It's the same format. It doesn't use a tremendous amount of energy to produce heat. It needs no coolant, and it runs on thermal electric fans, which come on and off as the temperature in a car goes past your point or whatever. It's the same concept, only, in a combustion car, they use gates to mix air so that it's either hot or cold to the temperature you wish. Use the same format. It's a pretty simplistic connection, actually. I mean, we've had electric cars since 1902. They're not new. We've gotten better at them, but they're nothing new. And as far as where we are with the combustion engine, we're nowhere near the technology that can expand that combustion engine. I've seen them run on pure hydrogen, water, pig excrement. And I've watched them run on pretty much doggone anything you want to put in there that is combustible and will explode. That's all it takes is to go like a diesel. A diesel cannot fire. It doesn't use a spark plug. It just uses pure heat and compression. It's kind of like a jet engine, which blows fuel, but it never really compresses the fuel. It uses the fuel as an ignition to spin the blades faster.
Okay, but
That's the simplest
getting
way I
back
can put
into
it.
the electric vehicles, okay, so you don't have a transmission anymore. You just have an electric
Yes,
motor.
No, still have a transmission. It still uses speed sensors in their transmission system. That was one of the major problems with the initial Teslas and why their batteries were blown up, because of the shift patterns were offset by different temperatures, and ambient temperature of the vehicle itself was having an issue, which is how the batteries were exploding. They were trying to put out more energy to cause a different shift placement, and the battery couldn't handle it, and they would melt down.
So they were drawing too much juice.
Yeah, they fixed that already. I mean, they did come up with a way to fix that. They're looking at a 4-motor system where each and every wheel will be driven by its own electric motor.
Oh, dang,
So
that sounds very high tech there, to where you get speed control at the point of every wheel. I mean, meaning it's an electric all-wheel drive. Have they developed that yet?
It's an all-wheel drive, electrically controlled vehicle, and it's pretty amazing how it works. And they're looking at another self-generation system where one or more of those motors will also act as a generation point, so that the battery's juices are held at a specific point. And as far as charging, the only time you would have to charge it would be like if the car sat for a week and never got to operate. Then you would have to, plug it back in, bring the batteries to their potential. And then once you were back on the road, they would use their own charging system. So essentially, you could drive that car 40 million miles. Financially, that would not be the best thing for a company to do. I mean, think about it. We're looking at, you got to factor the money in there.
Yeah, that's the conspiracy angle there. They don't want to build an electric vehicle that will last forever. They want something that requires maintenance, so you can keep the economy running with the maintenance and the battery changes.
The other issue is the lithium availability for some of these batteries.
Yeah, well, that was one of my points. What are the batteries made of? Are they lead acid or are they lithium?
No, lithium.
They're lithium, okay, and that's a rare earth element, and they're talking about these things being green. So how is that green if we're not using fossil fuels, and the emissions are zero on them, because obviously they're not burning fossil fuels, but you're doing an environmental impact with having discharged lithium cells that you got to throw in a landfill somewhere. How is that eco-friendly?
And they still have to be lubricated. They've tried graphite as a potential lifespan lubrication because you're still going to have bearings. You still have 1,000 different moving parts that have to be maintained and lubricated. Now, granted, we've got a lot of self-lubricating bearings and things like that uses, titanium graphite.
Well, won't they still need like wheel bearing changes and brake jobs done? That hasn't changed.
You're still going to have one of the best parts of the electric car is you're not going to need rotors and brakes in that fashion where you'll have a brake system that does it. The electronic brake will stop the motor itself.
The electronic braking is built into the motor itself that drives the wheel, so there's no need for a caliper in the old hydraulic system, correct?
Right. You won't have that hydraulic system. It's kind of like an electric wheelchair where as soon as you let go, it stops. What I'm saying? But it has momentum, that inertia, the original inertia can cause, they're still working on that, of course. The inertia that's generated inside the motor causes a kinetic energy. So when you do apply its braking system, if you would, when you release your accelerator and apply the braking system, they're having an issue with kinetic lockup. One or more issues, let's put it that way, where the kinetic lockup is causing steering issues. That's one of the things they're having a problem with the autonomous car. It follows a direction, but if something were to change that, and a heavy wind can cause the car to misread its actual action and crash it. And so they're looking at different ways to fight that off. That's one of the things I've been researching quite a bit. The Tesla's an amazing vehicle. No ifs, ands, or buts. 0 to 60 in few seconds is the only thing I've ever seen come out of a factory in my 60 years as being a mechanic is that car out of Canada, Buick GNX, that straight out of the factory did 7.8 seconds in a quarter mile with a 6-cylinder in it. They immediately stopped it because it was way too efficient and they couldn't get their money out of it. They just couldn't. So it was stopped.
Yeah. And are they going to do that with the electric vehicles if they become so efficient that there's no maintenance? I mean, you're talking very little maintenance on an electric vehicle other than, say, the windings go out in your motor. You need new bearings on your engine, your motor itself. It runs on electricity. So, are they going to run into the fact that they're going to be like, oh, we're going to discontinue this model, or as human nature dictates, they just keep improving and improving and improving on it?
That's pretty much where we're at. They just keep on improving on them. It make them as good as they possibly can make it right now.
Okay, now I gotta touch on the infrastructure part of it, because there's not enough charging stations for all electric vehicles. So, like, say we live out in the boondocks, middle of BFE, and we have an electric car. Well, we have a tree go down over the power lines, but I got to get to work tomorrow. My charge on my car was low. Lo and behold, a storm happens, tornado, whatever, knocks down the power grid. How do I charge my car, and how do I get to work the next day? You can't move your vehicle if it doesn't have a charge.
Go out and you start go out and you start your petroleum powered generator and you plug your car in.
Okay, so we're still using fossil fuels. So not
Well,
only do you got to spend like $1,500 to $3,000 to get a charging station attached to your electric grid on your house, you have to have a backup generator, right?
Yeah. Not sure exactly which university studied the amount of fossil fuel to make one vehicle as compared to one combustion operated vehicle. There's only about 7% difference in the amount of what it takes to build that car online, with all the machinery that need to be lubricated, all the equipment that it takes to build that machine. It takes just as much fossil fuel to build it, and everything in the car has a petroleum base. Every single thing in that car is petroleum based.
Okay, and then you got all the electronics and the computer touchscreens, and like in the instance of the Teslas, everything's touchscreen controlled.
And you're also talking LCD and LED.
Yeah.
Which a formulation all has to be put together. To truly believe that we'll stop using the oil, it's here for a reason, and it's not to keep it tectonic plates where they belong.
Yeah. Well,
they don't.
The whole point is anyone going to run out and get an EV, or are we going to go with the hybrids first that are dual fuel? You see, some of the people that are green conscious. Are EVs the really, alternative right now at this point?
They are. Why wouldn't they be? Hybrids are, I know someone that just bought a brand new Chevrolet Blazer. Amazing little vehicle. Just amazing. Every time she hits the brakes, the engine shuts off. It sits at the light with no operation, not using any fuel whatsoever, immediately touches the gas pedal, and away she goes.
Yeah,
No, it's amazing. That was one of the neatest little ideas that they ever came up with.
yeah, but it's
For-
really disconcerting to sit at a stop signal and your car just completely dies, and then, you know, the signal changes, you hit the gas, and it just suddenly comes back to life again. That's unnerving.
For you, it would be. But for a 16-year-old today, who's never
they would get
busted
used to
car,
it.
they would accept that. They would say, well, how come your car don't shut off like mine does? You know, they would question you on that.
Your car is not energy efficient. It's not a green car. We have to have these cars that shut down and start back up because they save energy when they do that.
Yes, they do. They save a lot of, except they have one issue. That starter's only good for 50,000 miles.
Huh.
Right now, the best they can get out of them. At 50,000 miles, that car's charging system has to be maintained, if you would. Normally, the drive gears and the reciprocating gear that goes inside that to read what's happening has to be replaced within 50,000 miles.
I knew there was a loophole in there somewhere, you know?
Yep. Well, I'm considerate. Every time you turn a key, you have a
Well, they're all push buttons now.
tremendous amount of force. But it also, when the car starts, it also has what they call a combustion or compression relief system in it. When the car shuts down, a valve opens that allows the compression to be released from all holding cylinders so that it's not starting against itself.
Wait,
You know
you're
what I'm
talking
saying?
about an electric vehicle? There's no cylinders in an electric one.
Questions now. The electric vehicle has no energy issue start or stop.
Oh, okay. I see what you're referring to now.
Yeah, only the kinetics. That's the thing they're working on now, is the stopping kinetics. Can they actually stop this car? It stops efficiently now the way it is, but at 75 miles per hour, is that kinetic stop going to be enough? Can it actually decrease the car within X amount of miles? I mean, that's one of your inspections. I live in the state of Florida, and when you pulled into the inspection center, you had to actually back up 50 feet, accelerate your car as good as you could, and hit all four wheels when you saw the light come on. And it measured how much each and every wheel was braking. They could tell you which wheel had a bad brake system just by that machine.
Okay, well, we gotta wrap this topic up now. If you really like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button, give us a click on the notification bell, and give us a like if you love it. For now, this is Reality Remix, signing out.